I'm going to start by just talking a little bit about the budget process, and then we will get into the budget itself. Katie, if you want to go ahead and start sharing the budget on the screen, that would be great. This form is for the board and the finance committee to hear your ideas, your questions, and get your feedback. The draft budget will go to the Board of Trustees for their approval in April. And just so you know, the Board of Trustees meets on the first Tuesday of every month. So it'll be Tuesday, April 2nd at 6:30 p.m. Those meetings are absolutely open for anyone who wants to come and hear us talk and observe and make any comments. Then once the board has approved the budget goes out to the congregation for the final version. And you will vote on that at the annual meeting, which will be on May 14th. So you'll have several chances to look at this. Let me just say a few words, and then I'm going to turn it over to Liz to talk about the revenue side of the budget. We really worked this year to base this budget on actual numbers from recent years. We're trying to make it as realistic as we can. In the budget that we sent out last Tuesday, we included year-to-date numbers for the current year through January because those were the most recent ones we had. We now have the February numbers, so we will be able to bring those in as a reference point. Katie, you may need to make this slightly smaller. If we want to see those February numbers, I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. Okay, we can sort of see them there. All right, Liz, over to you.
Thank you, Lynn. I want to talk a little bit about the revenue side of the budget. We have reduced our expected pledge income, budgeted at $125,000, down from $140,000 from this year. Our pledges this year are on track to total around $100,000. You can see from we're at $79,000 right now as of the end of February. And however, our offerings and gifts have increased significantly. The February number of 15,173 does include a generous gift from former member Rosemary Hagan of 5,000 plus all of the gifts that everyone has donated this year. This added to our pledges should bring us close to the 120,000 in revenue for the year, for this 23-24 year. We've estimated fundraising income at $12,500, feeling that the former number of 15,000 was too high. But we are making progress in this area, as evidenced by the success of this year's service auction. Special thanks to Lori, Deb, Colleen for all of their work, and also for Aaron for his donation of the dinner. And we're on track to meet the goal to support our partner organizations by special donations. It's called the Action and Justice Pass-Through Income of $5,000. We hope to give $5,000 each year, and through February we've already raised almost $4,300. So thank you for your generosity.
The next section that we're going to look at is the salaries, which is the greatest part of our expenditures. And this year was required a little more thought from us for a couple of reasons. One, because we're in search for a minister, which definitely makes things a little less predictable. And also because the UUA has issued a new set of salary guidelines, and we had to become familiar with those, and we wanted, as a responsible employer, to base our salary amounts on those guidelines. And here I should add that we had help from Stephanie McDonald, who did a lot of the salary research for us. She did a great job. And special thanks to Stephanie, because that helped us a lot to be clearer in what we needed to do and wanted to do. We'll start with the minister, and I will say, before I turn this over to Anna, that the actual cost of the new minister's salary and benefits won't be known until the hiring process is complete. So Anna, go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. So we were required to list a minimum salary on the job posting, which we set at $66,420, which is the minimum recommended by the UUA for our size and location. We are looking for a minister who has more than a minimum of experience and skills. So we also indicated that we have room for negotiation based on the experience and qualification of the candidate in hopes of attracting a greater pool of candidates. We will have an upper bound defined prior to any negotiations, and that will be sorted by the board with input given from the search team. And we expect that it will be near what we currently pay Reverend Laura, though that could change in the negotiation. So the search team is currently working on a plan for screening and interviewing candidates, which should also help us to assess where candidate qualifications would place them within the range we're considering offering.
Thank you, Anna. Our other staff positions are the communications and office manager, Colleen, the director of music ministry, Bruce, a director of family ministry, and our bookkeeper. So I'll go through each of those. The communications and office manager, Colleen's salary, fortunately, falls within the UUA guidelines, although it is below the midpoint for that position. We're recommending a 4% increase in her salary this year to bring her closer to the midpoint and to recognize the additional work that the ministerial transition will require from her. The director of music ministry, that was our biggest surprise, if you will. Bruce's salary does not meet the current UUA guidelines. And the finance committee and the board have both determined that it's important for us to change that. So we are recommending a $1,500 increase to bring his salary closer to these guidelines. And we will probably be recommending another increase next year, assuming that our budget allows. The director of family ministry, this took a lot of discussion, both for the finance committee and certainly for the board. We know that family ministry is highly valued at MSUS. And in fact, every one of us really cares about that area, bringing in families, bringing in youth and children. That's something that we have really missed in this pandemic and the time afterwards. But we are recommending not hiring a new director for the next year. And we have several reasons for that. We have really tried during and since the pandemic to find a successful approach in engaging families, children, and youth. And we've had limited results. I'm just going to put it that way. Our lack of a clear direction makes it hard for any director of family ministry to succeed. We need to research options, perhaps in partnership with the UUA and with other churches who are facing this same issue. And we need to come up with creative and effective solutions. So that's our first reason. Our second reason is we think the new minister should be in place so that they can be an active partner in determining the future of family ministry and make the hiring decision when we are ready to bring a new director of family ministry on board. So for now, the salary line for that position is $0. Although we have increased the money for family RE resources to support volunteers in trying innovative ideas. Experimenting by us could be very important to learn what does or does not work in this new RE environment. The last person I'll mention is the bookkeeper. Now, there has been a real joy for anybody interested in budgeting because the cost of the bookkeeper has gone down significantly, in part because of our changeover to QuickBooks. Our previous bookkeeping figures were very difficult for any bookkeeper to work with. Now that we have QuickBooks, Barb can just get through it in no time. So our cost next year will be $2,160, which is about half of what it was in 21 and 22. So that is good budget news. Liz, back over to you.
Lynn. I'm going to talk about the non-salary expenditures. The office and administrative budgeted expenses have declined by $1,150 from last year. That's good news. Building and occupancy expenses is now primarily rent. Rent in the Fridley Community Center and Pilgrim House combined has gone up 5%, or $1,229 for next year. While we are looking at other options for space, specifically exploring partnership with the New Brighton UCC, we're just budgeting for things to carry on as they are now. Program and worship budgeted expenses have increased by $521, with some decreases balanced by an increase in the family RE resources and materials that Lynn mentioned. And the cost of UUA membership is also increased. Looking at our budgets over time, we seem to be spending less on administrative and building expenses and more on programs and worship, which we believe aligns with our values. Finally, if we do decide to change the name of our church, there will be an estimated cost of about $2,475, and that's for legal documents, stationery, signage, and other related costs.
And finally, let me summarize our total expenditures and our net operating revenue. So for the next budget year, which 24-25, our total budgeted expenditure is calculated to be $205,000, $182.33. Basically, that's a reduction of $24,000 from the current year, or the cost of the Director of Family Ministry. So in other words, all of our other manipulations of the budget have held it pretty steady. We anticipate the use of $55,000 from our reserves to bring this budget into balance. Now, that could be reduced if we can increase revenues from other sources, including pledges, or find ways to further reduce expenditures. It would also go up if we don't manage to bring in enough revenue. So that again can be an unknown, although we do our best to keep that in check. Our reserves at Vanguard are quite healthy, actually. The end of February, our stocks, bonds, and money market totaled $1.49 million. And Katie checked the most recent amount on March 22nd, and it was $1.51 million. Now, one of the things that Katie pointed out, which I think is really important for us to consider, is that 4% of $1.5 million is $60,000. If we can get our income up reliably to where we can keep withdrawals to 4% or less, that would be a very good first step towards strong long-term financial health. And I think that is definitely a goal within our reach. Okay, I think that concludes our summary of the budget. Does anyone have questions, comments, or ideas that they would like to share?
This is Kevin, and I think that you've done a great job of pragmatically and purposefully looking at the budget, and that it has no frills. So I think that you've done a great job.
Thank you.
Janice Sankop from online has a comment.
Two things. I still would like to see Bruce's salary go up a little bit more than what it's proposed to go up, because I've said for several years that I didn't think he was adequately compensated for the tremendous value that we're getting from his work. My second is a question about our UUA membership costs and how that is determined, which I think ties into how many members we are declaring to the UUA. And I would like to know that number as well.
Janice, the way that's determined has changed. Kathy, is that something that you could speak to?
Sure. Janice, several years ago now, the UUA changed the dues formula from a per member category to based on a percent of budget. And there were various adjustments, and there was a long transition period. So now we're working off a percentage of our operating budget.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Janice.
Just a follow-up. Do we know how many members we consider to be members?
It's around 100. Katie, do you have an exact figure?
We certified at 94 when we certified at the end of January or February, somewhere around then. That's what we told the UUA. And I know that there are, Reverend Laura is making connection or contacts now inquiring about people who haven't been active for a long time, if they want to remain members or not.
Okay, thank you again.
Other questions or comments?
And to wait on hiring a director of family ministry. It's been clear for a while that that wasn't all that successful. And I've been very concerned about that, because that's what gives, that's what feeds the future of our church. So anyway, and also I think it's the other rationale, that major rationale I heard about getting, waiting for the new minister makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, Jamie. And I want to say that for all of us, we need to give some real thought as to what we need to do as a congregation to understand the needs of families and what family ministry could look like. And there are a number of things that we could do, including talking to other churches, talking to youth and children, and just seeing what might be valuable to them. So I really want us to take some responsibility for that, because I think it could really open some possibilities for us.
I want to say that it was a very difficult decision, not one that we took lightly, but obviously very close to my heart. But hiring someone without giving them any direction is not a recipe for success. So we need to get our stuff figured out on what direction that we want to mandate to a director of family ministry, and then we'll be in a better position to building success in the program.
Any other questions or comments? If you think of anything, please feel free to email Katie, Liz, me. We would be most appreciative of any insights that you have and want to add. And I will also add that there is always ways that you can participate. If you want to join the finance committee, that door is always open. I actually really enjoy budgeting, which might sound peculiar, but that's because budgets make values real. If we don't put resources in an area, then it just doesn't have the support it should have. So how we use our financial resources really matters. And that's why I encourage anyone who's interested in that to please join us on the finance committee.